Okay, let's unpack this. We've all been there, right? You crack open your laptop, the Wi-Fi icon is glowing, full bars, looks absolutely perfect, but then you try to load a web page, and nothing. Just that endless spinning wheel. You've restarted your device, maybe fiddled with the router, still nothing. It's that moment, isn't it? When your internet just vanishes. What do you even do first?
Oh, it's such a common frustration. That feeling of seeing the connection symbol, but, being completely cut off. But the interesting thing is, even when it feels like a total mystery, your computer often has the answers right there. It's trying to tell you what's wrong.
Exactly. And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to give you some, let's call them network detective tools. Specifically, we're talking about ipconfig and ifconfig. These aren't some super obscure tech things. They're actually pretty simple command line tools. And they give you instant insight, almost like an X-ray, into how your computer is connected, or maybe more importantly, why it's not connecting.
Yeah, think of them as your personal network scanner. They help reveal those invisible pathways your data is supposed to be taking.
A network scanner, I like that. So let's get specific. What exactly are ipconfig and ifconfig?
Well, they're commands, things you type directly into your system's terminal or command prompt window.
Right, that black box that pops up sometimes.
Exactly. Your direct line to the operating system's networking guts, essentially. You type the command, hit enter, and bam, it shows you your current network configuration. It tells you how your computer is set up to talk to everything else.
And it's important to know which one you need, right? They're not the same command for every computer.
That's a really key point, yeah. It depends on your operating system. So if you're on Windows, you'll use ipconfig. That's your go-to. But if you're on Linux or Mac OS, which are both sort of built on Unix, then ifconfig is the one you typically use.
Okay, ipconfig for Windows, ifconfig for Mac and Linux.
Mostly, yes. Although, it's worth mentioning, many newer Linux systems are actually moving towards a command called ip. It's more powerful, offers more detail. But for basic diagnostics, like what we're talking about, ifconfig is still very common and works great on Macs and lots of Linux setups. But the main goal for both ipconfig and ifconfig, it's identical. Show you how you're connected.
Okay, so you run the command. What pops up can look, well, a bit intimidating at first. Lots of numbers, maybe some text. How do we decode that? What's the really important stuff these tools tell us?
Right, yeah, it can seem like a lot, but there are a few key pieces of information that are crucial. Think of it like learning the key symptoms from that network X-ray.
Let's start with maybe the most fundamental one, the IP address.
Absolutely. The IP address, it's basically your computer's unique address on the network, like your home address. But for digital information, mail needs an address to find your house. Data packets need an IP address to find your computer.
And unlike my home address, this IP address isn't always fixed, right? It can change.
That's right. It's often dynamic. When you connect to Wi-Fi at a coffee shop, you get one IP. At home, maybe a different one. Even restarting your home router might give your devices new IPs. This flexibility is actually what makes it easy for devices to join and leave networks without you having to manually configure things every time.
So what happens if something goes wrong? Like if the computer doesn't get an address or gets a bad one?
Well, simply put, no IP, no connection, or if the IP is wrong for that network, same result. Your computer's basically invisible or talking on the wrong channel. You'll usually see addresses like maybe 192.168.1.1. That's a very common type for home networks, a private IP.
Okay, IP address is critical. What else do these commands show us? I always see something called a subnet mask right below it.
Ah, yes, the subnet mask. This one's a bit more abstract, but still really important. Think of it as defining your local neighborhood online. It helps your computer decide if another device it wants to talk to is local on the same immediate network or remote, somewhere else out on the internet, or a different network segment.
So it's like a filter deciding if a message stays local or needs to go further.
Exactly. Is this data for someone next door, or does it need to be handed off to the post office, the gateway to go somewhere else? It's constantly making that decision for every piece of data. A really common one you'll see is 255.255.255.0.
Okay, that makes sense. And you mentioned the gateway. That's another thing listed, right? The default gateway.
Yes, the default gateway. This is usually the IP address of your router, the device that connects your local network to the wider internet. It's your exit door.
Your exit door to the internet. So if your computer can't find or talk to that gateway,
Then it's stuck. It can talk to other devices right there on your local network, maybe, but it can't reach anything outside like websites. So if that gateway address is missing or incorrect, you're not getting online. A typical home router gateway might be something like 192.168.1.1.
Got it. IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, anything else major these tools show?
Well, they also list all your network adapters. These are the actual connection points. Could be your Ethernet port, the one you plug a cable into your Wi-Fi card, maybe Bluetooth, even virtual adapters created by software like VPNs. And each of these adapters can potentially have its own set of IP addresses and settings.
Right, because you might be connected via Wi-Fi and Ethernet at the same time, potentially.
Exactly. The commands show you the status for each one.
Okay, this is great theory. Let's make it real. Let's use that network scanner idea. Imagine this. You're somewhere like school, maybe the library, trying to get online, and it's just not working. Total frustration. A tech support person comes over, and the very first thing they ask is...
What's your IP address?
Yep, classic first step.
So you pop open the command prompt, type ipconfig, hit enter. You look through the output, and under IPv4 address, you see 169.254.5.21.
Bingo. And that specific number range, starting with 169.254, is what we call an APA address, automatic private IP addressing. APIPA. Sounds not good. I remember this happening to me once. Couldn't figure it out, called support, and they immediately knew from that number. What does it mean?
It's a huge red flag, basically. It means your computer tried to ask the network for a proper IP address. It reached out to the DHCP server, the thing that usually hands out addresses.
But it got no answer.
Exactly. It couldn't reach the DHCP server, or the server didn't respond properly. So your computer essentially threw up its hands and just made up an address for itself in that special 169.254 range. It's a fallback, so it can theoretically talk to other devices also stuck in APA mode on the same wire, but crucially.
It means no internet connection. And it tells the tech where the problem likely is, right? Not your computer's settings necessarily, but the communication with the network's address server.
Precisely. It points directly to a failure in that initial network handshake. Maybe the cable's unplugged, maybe the Wi-Fi password is wrong, maybe the router's DHCP service is down. But it tells you the computer tried and failed to get a proper address. So ipconfig gave you that immediate, vital clue. Huge diagnostic shortcut.
Okay, so this isn't just for tech support. This is something you, the listener, can actually try right now.
Absolutely. It's super easy to do. If you're on a Windows computer, just search for CMD in your start menu or search bar to open the command prompt. In the black window that appears, just type ipconfig, that's IPCONFIG, and press enter.
And if you're on a Mac or Linux machine?
Open the terminal app. On a Mac, it's usually in the Utilities folder inside Applications. On Linux, it depends on your setup, but search for terminal. Once that's open, type ifconfig, IFCONFIG, and press enter.
Simple as that.
Yep. And here's a little challenge for you once you run the command. Look through the output. Can you find your own IP address, your subnet mask, your default gateway? And then maybe ask yourself, is my IP address a private one, like 192.168.something or 10.something? That usually means you're behind a router. And critically, is there a default gateway listed? That simple check tells you a lot about your connection state.
So why is knowing how to do this actually useful? Why should anyone care about ipconfig or ifconfig? Why is this a superpower, as we called it?
Well, first off, it really does give you the power to start troubleshooting your own internet problems. Instead of just feeling helpless or randomly restarting things, you can take this quick first step, get some actual data, and maybe even figure out the cause yourself. Is it an APA address? Is the gateway missing? That guides your next steps.
Saves you time, saves you frustration, maybe even saves you a call to tech support.
Definitely. And beyond that, it's actually a fundamental skill if you're interested in, say, IT support, network administration, or cybersecurity. This is Networking 101. Understanding IP addressing is crucial.
So practical skills for potential careers, too.
For sure. But even if you're not going into tech, it just gives you a better understanding of how your own devices work, how they connect to this giant network we call the internet. It makes the invisible visible. Like we said, it's that X-ray machine for your connection. Shows you what's happening under the hood, especially when things aren't working right.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive here. It's pretty clear that these two commands, ipconfig on Windows, ifconfig on Mac Linux, they're really valuable tools. They aren't that complicated to use, but they reveal so much. Your IP address, your device's location on the network, your subnet mask defining that local neighborhood, and your default gateway, that all-important exit to the wider internet.
Exactly. And just understanding those basics, your network's address and its exit point, it does more than just help you fix problems. It helps you see those invisible pathways, the routes your data takes constantly, connecting you to, well, everything. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other complex invisible systems are running in our daily lives that we just take for granted? And how maybe with the right tools or just a bit of curiosity, we could start to understand them too.